Alright, good evening. I didn't think I'd be doing another video, but I always say that. Link in the description. So let's do my usual pointing and clicking, and once again I come across a video, comparing men versus women. But this one is actually from one of the military branches, and I guess they're restructuring the same training for both genders. It has to be the same, no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if they're taking the average between the two. I really don't know. All I know is, the whole, lessening things, for women may have created some, controversy, because you got to keep in mind that's our front line, our military. That's who protects this country. You know, regardless of what everybody else is going to say. No, they're just doing it for the government. We're going to leave that to the side. That's a different video in of itself. For the sake of argument, the military protects our nation. And anybody who joins needs to be able to pass all the tests. And, obviously that news reporter, according to the, snippet video, she passed the basic tests. Kudos for her. So in theory, she's merit-based, as Trump likes to say. She's merit-based. She could actually go to combat, if she had the mindset. Now, obviously, she's a news reporter, so she just takes results and, like you said, hangs them up on her fridge. Woohoo! I passed the test. And and that's fine. And obviously, there might be some men who just don't pass the test. I mean, I'm disqualified, for medical reasons. It's always been that way since I was a teen and wanted to join the Marines. I can't fix that. I can't escape that. There's no way I can do a workaround or anything like that. It just wasn't in the cards for me. And the same thing can be said, for emergency personnel. I will throw in a caveat with emergency personnel. Sometimes, especially with the police, even though I've got body cams and all that, you still need female officers to deal with female suspects. It's just the way it is. Because even though they got the body cam, you end up with that on your mark. You end up with a mark like that. Like if you're a male officer dealing with a female suspect, and they try to Me Too you or whatever, it's still going to show. And they may still try to find ways to say that he did it. And in today's world, if you're a guy, you get accused of anything, sexually related, even if you're acquitted, you'll still get the people who think you did it. But that's neither here nor there. That's a whole other topic in itself. But I had to throw in that little example of, even though emergency personnel also, to a degree, need to be, fit, because they need to be able to respond to an emergency. They need to be able to carry, firefighters need to be able to carry, people out of a burning building. Paramedics, well, obviously they roll the stretcher and do 1, 2, 3, lift, in the ambulance. Police, obviously, not going to get into, I hate cops or, we need cops. That's neither here nor there. Obviously they need to be able to deal with a suspect. And, that's why they have their procedures of how they deal with suspects. But, there may be a lone officer, male or female, that is dealing with an aggressive suspect. And the suspect may overpower the cop. And, more likely than not to happen to a female officer, no offense. But, again, they're a necessary evil if you're dealing with a female suspect. Anyhow, back to this. Because the, unlike, emergency personnel, military, they're here to defend our nation. And, in the battlefield, all the enemy's going to see is a target. You know, they're not going to care, you know, if you're a man or a woman. They're just going to see a target. And, you know, to a degree, I think police and other organizations should take, you know, same thing with firefighters, should take a page out of that. You know, because if you get a 120-pound woman, you know, as a police officer, you know, dealing with a football player suspect, you know, assuming she doesn't have her gun already drawn, um, which we all know cops get attacked and have their guns taken from them. I covered this in a previous video. Yeah, before the pandemic, there was a sergeant who was killed with his own gun. You know, Michael Chestnut. He was a Weymouth sergeant. He was from Hanover, Massachusetts, worked in Weymouth, dealing with a suspect. And the suspect did like some type of, you know, Rambo ambush with a rock, and then took the officer's gun and just plugged him 13 times. You know, so that was clearly personal. You know, even though the officer was more heavily armed than the suspect. But you know, again, you know, the Top Gun hand is, you know, the training. You know, it should be standard for any type of, you know, occupation. Where you may have to, you know, move somebody, you know, or you may have to carry a certain amount of weight or whatever. It should be the same. Now, again, are they gonna are they gonna make the training geared towards, you know, just men? I don't know. Or are they gonna average it out between the two? I really don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to you.